So if you've ever tried to break a bad habit, you know the feeling, right? It feels like this epic battle of willpower, a huge struggle against yourself. But what if that whole idea is just wrong? What if the struggle itself is actually the trap? That's the core idea we're going to unpack today.
This whole perspective comes from a pretty unlikely source, an accountant named Alan Carr. He came up with a method for quitting smoking that had this jaw-dropping 90 to 95% success rate. And his secret? It wasn't about having God-tier discipline. He argued that the prison of addiction isn't some high-security fortress. It's more like a cognitive illusion, a magic trick we've all been tricked into believing is real. And the coolest part is, once you see how the trick works, the prison, well, it just vanishes.
All right, so if we're going to stage this prison break, our first move isn't to start picking the lock. It's to walk up to the door and realize, wait a second, it was never locked in the first place. First, we have to completely deconstruct the illusion.
For years and years, the standard approach is always asked, why is it so hard to quit? But just listen to that question. It already assumes you're making a huge, painful sacrifice. But Alan Carr, being an accountant, came at it with a completely different logic. He didn't see a disease, he saw a faulty ledger. He asked a much better question. Why do we even do it in the first place? He literally audited his own habit to find the bad accounting.
And what that audit turned up is the absolute heart of this whole thing, and you can see it right here. Addicts feel like the habit gives them a genuine pleasure, right? A real boost. But Carr discovered what he called a reversal of causality. Look at the graph. The habit doesn't lift you above the normal baseline of feeling good. It actually creates an empty feeling below it, and the next fix just brings you back to the normal state that everyone else gets to live in all the time. It's like wearing shoes that are way too tight, just so you can feel that amazing relief when you finally take them off. You haven't gained any actual pleasure. You've just stopped a pain that you created.
So if the pleasure is just an illusion, what's really keeping us trapped? Well, according to this method, the answer is a tale of two monsters, and they work together in this perfectly devastating way. Okay, first, you've got the little monster. This is the actual physical addiction, and here's the big secret. It is incredibly weak. We're talking about a tiny, empty feeling. No high fevers, no terrible cramps. I mean, think about it. Most smokers sleep right through the night without needing a cigarette, which proves just how minor this thing really is. But then you have the big monster. And this is the real enemy. This is the giant psychological fortress we've built in our minds from years of advertising, social conditioning, and just lying to ourselves, the belief that the habit makes us more confident, or more relaxed, or more focused.
And this is the absolute key to the whole trap. That little monster might be a total weakling, but it has a terrifyingly powerful partner. So how exactly does this partnership work to keep those prison doors slammed shut?
This diagram shows their little system perfectly. It all starts with that tiny physical emptiness from the little monster. It's like a biological itch. But that little itch acts like a tripwire. It pokes the subconscious, what Carr called the sleeping partner. And your brain immediately takes that tiny physical signal and blows it up into this massive panic-filled story from the big monster. I'm deprived. I can't handle this. I need my crutch now. A tiny fly's bite triggers the roar of a giant dragon.
You know, understanding that loop really explains why the most popular escape plan, just good old-fashioned willpower, is almost perfectly designed to fail. So let's audit these flawed methods.
The willpower method is basically any approach that forces you to feel like you're making a sacrifice. So now you have two forces pulling you in opposite directions. Your desire to be healthy versus your brainwashed belief that the habit actually gives you something valuable. This creates something called the waiting trap. You're denying yourself something you still believe is a pleasure, which just makes you miserable while you white-knuckle it, hoping the urge just goes away. And in that state, your brain actually starts looking for an excuse to give in, just to stop the misery. And this bad logic spreads to all those other false friends of quitting. Cutting down, that's just a form of self-torture. You're in a constant state of withdrawal, and you make every single cigarette feel like this incredibly precious, sacred thing, which just makes the psychological monster bigger. And substitutes, like patches or gum, oh, they're even worse. They keep the little monster alive by giving it what it wants, and they send this powerful message to your brain that you're deprived, all while doing nothing to fight the big monster. And the idea of just one? No. Physiologically impossible. The instant that chemical hits your brain, the little monster wakes right back up and it kicks the big monster's door wide open.
You know, there's a fantastic historical parallel for this. Back in the polio epidemics, the medical establishment insisted on putting limbs in splints, which actually guaranteed they would become paralyzed.
There was this one nurse, Sister Kenny, who realized the splints were the problem, and she cured thousands by using active movement instead, but the establishment fought her tooth and nail. It's the same thing. Nicotine patches and things like them treat the symptom, that little itch from the little monster, while totally ignoring the psychological paralysis caused by the big monster. They keep the addiction going. So, if willpower and substitutes are destined to fail, what's the actual escape plan? Let's get to the real blueprint for liberation. And here's a hint. It has nothing to do with strength. It's all about a change in perspective.
And this brings us to what you could call the Count of Monte Cristo shift. The willpower paradigm on the left sees quitting as this huge sacrifice. You're mourning a lost friend, and you feel deprived forever. But the cognitive shift on the right, it reframes the whole thing as an exhilarating prison break. I mean, when Edmond Dantes finally escapes the Chateau d'If, he doesn't sit on the beach feeling sad about leaving his damp prison cell. He's ecstatic. He's free.
This single quote just captures that mental shift perfectly. The feeling isn't loss. It is pure, unadulterated joy. You are not giving something up. You are getting your life, your money, your health, your freedom back from a parasite that's been feeding on you for years.
So what are the exact steps to pull this off? Well, first, you make an irrevocable vow. You accept with 100% certainty that you are giving up absolutely nothing of value. This is not a trial run, this is it. Second, you reframe the sensation. When you feel that little physical emptiness, don't think of it as pain. Think of it for what it really is. You are feeling the death throes of the little monster. You're starving a parasite, and that's a good feeling. And third, active interception. You eliminate any doubt. You never question the decision. You never daydream about just one.
Okay, so once you've made that huge cognitive leap, the final step is to really solidify your freedom by actively rewiring how your brain responds to all those old triggers.
Now, you can't just block the thought of the habit. Our brains don't work like that. The thought is going to pop into your head. And as you can see in the before pathway, that trigger used to lead straight to misery. The trick now is to consciously intercept it. When the thought hits, don't think, oh, I wish I could, but I can't. Instead, you throw a party in your head. You literally shout, hooray, I'm completely free of that slavery. This is the moment of revelation. By wiring that old trigger to a new feeling of victory, you re-engineer your brain, and that old desire just gets replaced by total indifference.
And this is exactly why that common advice to hide from your triggers is such a fallacy. Hiding just reinforces the idea that you're a victim. The auditor's approach says do the exact opposite. Go straight to the party. Willingly face those triggers without your chemical crutch to prove to your own subconscious that you never ever needed it in the first place. You shouldn't be envious of people still stuck in the trap. You should pity them. You're the one who found the key.
This thinking leads to maybe the most counterintuitive strategy of all, what we can call the timing paradox. Don't wait for a stress-free vacation to quit. That just sets up a trap of false conditions. No, instead, if stress is your biggest trigger, you should quit during the most stressful period of your life. If you can navigate that high-stakes meeting or that tough family argument without the crutch, you've just slayed the dragon at its absolute strongest. It builds this impenetrable psychological armor that makes everything else feel easy.
So, the whole point is this. True freedom doesn't come from fighting cravings for the rest of your life. You don't spend decades resisting temptation. Freedom comes from using pure, simple logic to carefully dismantle the illusion that the temptation had any real value in the first place. And once the illusion of the reward is shattered, well, willpower becomes totally irrelevant. You just open the door and walk out. And of course, this framework isn't just about smoking. You can apply this exact same audit to tons of modern habits. I mean, think about our phones. The little monster is that little dopamine dip you feel when you put it down. But the big monster, that's the gigantic societal story about the fear of missing out. It is the exact same cognitive trap.
And this all leads us to one final, really powerful question. If this exact mental architecture can keep millions of intelligent people chained to a toxic habit for decades, what else are we rationalizing in our own lives? What other tight shoes are we all wearing every day, just for that fleeting moment of relief when we finally take them off? It's a powerful reason to start auditing your own life. The door is already unlocked. You just have to see it.